Ever feel loss stole your spark in 2025's post-pandemic reconnection? One empty chair at breakfast, one photo that stings. Grief whispers, why bother? As loneliness creeps in after decades. But what if that ache could bloom? Zhuangzi's poetic wisdom offers 7 tools as your lifeline to reclaim joy. Ready to rise from the shadows?
One empty chair, one photo, and suddenly the air feels heavier. Since my partner passed, every corner of this house reminds me they're gone. And people keep telling me to move on. But how? Moving on feels like betrayal.
When my wife died, I mourned deeply. But after a time, I saw her passing as a transformation, like the seasons changing. She had simply moved from form to formlessness. I celebrated her life instead of chaining myself to her absence.
So you're saying grief isn't about holding on to their body, but honoring their being? I hear you, but letting go feels like cutting the thread to our life. Even one plate at dinner feels like erasing him.
The seasons turn without regret. Winter's quiet births spring's flowers. Your love remains a root, feeding new days. Step into this cycle, and you'll feel his presence in the air around you.
Seasons turning with him still near, that softens the ache. I'll walk in our garden, feel him in the breeze, and pause to recall the laughter we shared on that bench. I will continue to celebrate his life daily. Without him, my days drag. Should I travel, find a companion, or just stay put? Nothing feels right anymore.
The sage enjoys himself in what is near at hand and does not toil for things afar.
You're saying joy's hiding in the small things close by, not in exhausting grand escapes. But after our big adventures, how can a quiet cup of tea or knitting replace the thrill of what we had?
The crane sways in its marsh, content with its own ripples, not chasing the mountain's height. Relish the gentle comforts. Tea by the window, a letter to your friend, and let them stitch a warm joy into your quiet hours.
A crane swaying in its marsh so steady. I'll sip tea by the window, pen a note to my granddaughter, and let those small joys knit a cozy warmth into my days. Dating again terrifies me. Years of planning every detail with John gave me stability, but now it's exhausting and I feel lost without his guidance.
Flow with whatever may happen, and let your mind be free. Stay centered by accepting whatever you are doing.
So you're suggesting I take control by letting life unfold, trusting myself instead of clinging to old plans? But after 42 years of mapping out our life, holidays, routines, releasing that control leaves me lost. How could I open myself up to someone else or shape my days without that anchor?
A river carves its course around rocks, shaping its own path with ease. Loosen your grip on the past, and you'll steer your life, dating new joys with a steady hand, guided by your own wisdom. Flow at your own pace.
A river carving my way, that steadies me. If my path crosses with someone new, I'll let it be, trusting my own rhythm to guide me into a warmer future. John's passing makes everything seem temporary. How do I find joy when it all slips away?
Life follows death, and death is the beginning of life. Who can understand this cycle?
If I'm hearing you right, life and death are one continuous cycle, and accepting that could bring me peace. But our marriage feels carved in stone. Embracing its end feels like admitting it never happened, and I can't bear that thought.
Rain falls to feed the earth, rising again as mist. Impermanence keeps your love alive in each new day. Hold it lightly, and joy flows through.
Rain rising again? That's a comfort. I'll watch tonight's sunset, letting it fade, remind me our love just changes form. Loneliness fills the silence without my husband. My mind races with regrets, and I feel so alone.
When the mind is at rest, the 10,000 things are at rest.
Calming my mind is the key. like a still lake that quiets everything around it. But the quiet roars some nights. I hear the clock tick, the fridge hum, and every sound says, he's not here.
A lake mirrors the sky only when still. Let your thoughts drift like clouds, and the silence will cradle you, easing the weight of those echoes.
A lake cradling me. I like that. I'll sit with a cup of chamomile, breathing until the quiet feels like an embrace, not an absence. Grief sets me apart. My kids urge me to move on, but 40 years of marriage can be brushed aside.
The sage sees all beings as his companions, and thus he is never alone.
Seeing others as companions means I'm not really alone. And maybe sharing my story could bring us closer. But at my age, I worry my stories are just old photographs no one wants to flip through. I don't want to bore my family into silence.
The old tree shelters young saplings with its shade. Companionship grows in many ways. Grandkids' laughter, a friend's call, a neighbor's nod. Live for your family's joy, be present in their lives, and your stories weave a bond that turns solitude into shared warmth.
A tree shading saplings. I can do that. I'll bake cookies with my grandkids, let their laughter braid into my stories until they're ours, not just mine. After losing my husband, joy feels out of reach. How do I find purpose or laugh without him?
The sage laughs at the absurdity of life, and in that laughter finds his freedom.
You're saying life's unpredictability is worth laughing at, and that laughter could be my freedom? But after such a loss, laughter feels almost disloyal, like I'm letting go of him with every chuckle.
The wind rustles leaves into a playful tune. Absurdity is life's gentle jest. Let laughter lighten your load, opening you to new joys with a smile.
A tune in the wind, I hear that. I'll laugh at my lopsided roses, knowing John would have teased me, and in that joy, keep him close.
Lost in grief? Zhuangzi's 7 tools light your way. Accept death's shift, find joy in grandkids' laughs, flow like a stream, cherish each day, soften loneliness, weave connection, and free your spirit with laughter. Like Eleanor's garden tea, your joy awaits. Join us next for Epictetus. Subscribe for weekly wisdom. Share your step below. Thrive, not just endure.